HOA Karen waddled onto my ranch like she owned the sun itself. Her voice a grating siren that could curdle milk in a cow's udder. By the time I caught wind of her scheme, she'd already turned my family's legacy into her personal fiefdom, complete with shoddily built houses and a sign proclaiming Hoas Haven. It started 6 months ago, when I, Clara Hensley, returned to my late father's 200-acre ranch in West Texas after a decade away. I'd been in Chicago, grinding through a corporate job, dreaming of the open plains I'd left behind. Dad's will left the ranch to me, but I hadn't realized how much trouble a single woman could stir up in my absence. HOA, a local real estate shark with a penchant for cutting corners and a sneer that could wilt cactus, had somehow convinced the county clerk that my land was unclaimed. She'd forged documents, bribed officials, and started building a neighborhood on my property without so much as a phone call to me. I pulled up to the ranch in my beat-up pickup, expecting golden fields and the old oak where Dad used to read me stories. Instead, I found a grid of half-finished houses, all cheap siding and crooked roofs, sprawled across my land like a bad rash. HOA was there, barking orders at a crew of underpaid workers, her floral muumuu flapping in the wind. "This is my empire now," she declared when I confronted her, her chins wobbling with smug certainty. "You snooze, you lose, sweetheart." The audacity hit me like a slap. This wasn't just about land, it was about my father's sweat, our family's roots, and the sheer gall of a woman who thought she could steamroll anyone in her path. I wasn't about to let HOA Karen turn my heritage into her tacky subdivision. The fight was on, and it was going to be ugly. First, I went to the county office, where the clerk, a nervous man named Jerry, admitted he'd taken Hoas consulting fee to fast-track her permits. She said it was abandoned land. He stammered, sweating through his tie. I pulled out Dad's will, the deed, and a stack of old photos proving this was Hensley land since 1890. Jerry's face went gray. "You've got a case," he muttered, handing me the forged documents HOA had filed. They were laughably bad, her signature scrawled over my family's name like a toddler's doodle. Next, I hired a lawyer, Maria Alvarez, who had a reputation for chewing up bullies like HOA and spitting them out. Maria uncovered a trail of Hoas scams. She'd done this before, conning elderly farmers out of their land with fake deeds and empty promises. "This woman's a vulture," Maria said, her eyes gleaming with the thrill of a fight. "But we're going to clip her wings." HOA didn't back down. She doubled down, rallying her tenants, a handful of desperate families she'd lured with low rento protest on my ranch. They waved signs calling me a land-grabbing tyrant, which was rich coming from people squatting on my property. HOA stood at the front, megaphone in hand, screeching about her vision for Hoas Haven. "Clara Hensley's a nobody," she bellowed, her voice echoing across the plains. "This land belongs to Progress." I'll admit, that stung. I wasn't a nobody, I was a Hensley, raised on this dirt, with memories of Dad teaching me to ride horses under these skies. But Hoas tenants didn't know that. They saw her as their savior, not the snake who'd roped them into her scheme. I couldn't blame them entirely. They were victims too. Still, I wasn't about to let sympathy stop me from reclaiming what was mine. Maria filed an injunction, halting Hoas construction. The court date was set, but HOA wasn't one to wait for justice. She started sneaking workers onto the ranch at night, hammering away at her shoddy houses like a defiant toddler building a Lego castle. I caught them one evening, their floodlights glaring across my fields. "Get off my land," I shouted, waving a flashlight. HOA emerged from the shadows, smirking. You can't stop progress. Clara, this is my neighborhood now. That was the moment I knew this wasn't just about legal battles. HOA was playing dirty, and I had to match her grit. I called in a favor from my cousin, Nate, who ran a demolition crew. Bring your biggest bulldozer, I told him. We're taking this back. The showdown came on a stormy Tuesday, the sky bruised with clouds. Nate's bulldozer rumbled onto the ranch, its engine growling like a beast ready to feast. HOA's workers scattered, but she stood her ground, clutching her megaphone like a shield. You wouldn't dare, she screamed as I climbed out of my truck, Maria at my side with the court order in hand. The few tenants who'd shown up looked nervous, clutching their belongings as the wind whipped around us. This is my land. HOA, I said, my voice steady despite the knot in my gut. You built this neighborhood on lies, and now it's coming down. Maria handed the court order to the sheriff, who'd shown up to keep the peace. His deputy, a lanky kid named Tim, started reading HOA her rights. Her face twisted into a mask of fury. But for once, she had no comeback. The first house fell with a groan, its cheap walls crumpling like paper. HOA's tenants watched, some crying, others just stunned. I felt a pang of guilt. They'd been duped by HOA's promises of affordable homes. I approached one woman, a single mom named Rosa, who was clutching her son's hand. I'm sorry you got caught in this, I told her. I'll help you find a real place to live. She nodded, tears in her eyes, but didn't say a word. HOA, meanwhile, was unraveling. You're ruining everything, she shrieked as the second house collapsed into a pile of splinters. She lunged at me, but the sheriff held her back. You think you're some hero, she spat. You're just a bitter nobody with a grudge. Her words bounced off me. I wasn't bitter, I was furious. But not just for myself. I was furious for Dad, for the land he'd loved, and for the people HOA had manipulated. As the bulldozer tore through the third house, I saw her empire crumbling, just like the sign on my fence had promised. The court case was a slaughter. Maria presented the forged documents, Jerry's testimony, and a paper trail of HOA's bribes. The judge, a no-nonsense woman named Evelyn Carter, didn't mince words. MS. Karen, you've defrauded this community and desecrated a family's legacy, she said. You'll pay restitution, and you're barred from any real estate dealings in this county. HOA's face went slack. Her arrogance finally shattered. The tenants got relocation assistance, funded by HOA's seized assets. Rosa and her son found a small apartment in town, and I made sure their first month's rent was covered. The ranch was cleared, the last of HOA's houses reduced to rubble. I walked the fields afterward, the air thick with dust and the scent of rain. For the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe. HOA disappeared from town, her name a cautionary tale whispered in diners and gas stations. Some said she'd moved to Nevada, still chasing her next scam. I didn't care. My ranch was mine again, and I was already planning to restore it, maybe plant some crops, bring back the horses, make it a place Dad would have been proud of. Standing under the old oak, I thought about HOA's downfall. She'd built her empire on lies and greed, but in the end, it was her own arrogance that buried her. The land had a way of humbling people like that. It always did. The end.